Welcome to Inside Bliss. We're the space where we explore, the really interesting connections between sexual well-being, self-discovery, and how stories can help us get there.
And today we're doing a deep dive into a specific series on the Bliss app. It's called Inhale, Exhale, Awaken.
Yes, Inhale, Exhale, Awaken. It's part of their Mindful Spicy Stories collection, and what really grabbed me, and I think us both, is this strong theme of self-exploration, specifically how our fantasies play into that.
Absolutely. It's central to the whole narrative. And, for anyone maybe new to Bliss, it's this app with a huge library of immersive stories, first-person POV, really engaging stuff. You can even create your own.
Right. But what we talk about a lot here on Inside Bliss is how it's more than just the explicit content, isn't it?
It's designed to be a space for maybe liberation from shame, exploring inner thoughts, emotions.
Exactly. Which can be a really profound way to understand ourselves better. And we're going to see that play out today.
And Inhale, Exhale, Awaken brings in another layer, which is breath work, using conscious breathing as a way to unlock things.
Like repressed memories, emotional blocks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and forging that deeper link between the body, sensuality, your inner world. It follows a character, Jamie.
So Jamie's journey through breathwork becomes a metaphor almost for how engaging with fantasies, even intense ones, can be this powerful self-exploration tool.
Precisely. It really showcases that. So as we unpack this, maybe consider for yourself, what might your own fantasy landscapes hold? Any keys to understanding yourself?
Interesting question. A good one to keep in mind. So where should we start? Episode 1.
Let's do it. Episode 1 is called The Breath's Whisper. And right off the bat, we get Jamie's skepticism about breathwork.
Yeah, I think it's a bit woo-woo, right? Which honestly, I think a lot of us can relate to when we first encounter something like that.
Totally. So Jamie's in the studio, Eva's studio in the West Village. Sounds quite serene.
But inside Jamie's head, not so much. The description is great. A goddamn NASCAR race of thoughts.
Yeah. Perfectly captures that mental noise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That struggle to just focus.
It really does. That contrast is stark, calm outside, chaos inside. Jamie's there physically, but mentally. Kind of checking out.
But Eva, the facilitator, her guidance is gentle. And through the breathing, these little moments of quiet start to emerge. Fleeting, but they're there.
And in one of those quiet moments, something shifts. Something unexpected.
This is where it gets really interesting. As Jamie settles into the breath, a memory pops up, linked to a past dom.
And it triggers arousal, right? Suddenly.
Yeah.
A powerful example of how our bodies just hold on to things, react in ways we don't expect.
Exactly. The body remembers even when the conscious mind isn't, actively thinking about it. Somatic memory.
It makes you think about those links, memory, physical feeling, desire,
Yeah.
how tangled they are.
But it's not just that initial wave of arousal. Something else follows, something unsettling.
Yeah, an unbidden memory fragment. Doesn't sound pleasant. Leaves Jamie feeling disoriented, shaken.
Right. It shows it's not always straightforward, this uncovering process. It can be jarring.
And Jamie pulls back a bit from the breathing then, understandably.
But Eva's response is key, I think. She doesn't push. She's calm, reassures Jamie it was just a memory surfacing.
And suggests they can explore it later, when Jamie feels ready.
Exactly. No judgment. Creating that safe container is so important for this kind of work. Otherwise, people just shut down.
Sure. And despite feeling shaken up, Jamie decides to come back. There's that flicker of determination, curiosity maybe?
Yeah, I think so. An underlying sense that there's something valuable here, even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay, so that leads us nicely into episode 2, Unveiling the Past. Jamie's still mulling over that first session, it seems.
Yeah, you get the sense they're processing, meeting friends beforehand, maybe needing a bit of grounding or support, but determined.
But I am not backing out feeling.
Right. And in the second session, Jamie manages to relax more deeply. Seems like there's a bit more trust, maybe, or willingness to let go.
And with that deeper relaxation, well, more comes up from the subconscious.
The erotic feelings return, but this time, that fragmented memory, it becomes clearer, more complete.
And it's intense.
Oh, definitely. It's a memory of being on their knees, gagged, a dominant woman, a riding crop.
Wow.
And the description uses the word exquisite for the sharp pain, but then it's immediately followed by this flood of other emotions: pain, anger, fear, and then relief.
Exquisite pain. That's complex. It really speaks to how tangled pleasure and pain and all sorts of emotions can be in our past experiences and fantasies.
It absolutely does. It challenges simple ideas about what arousal means, shows how past experiences, even difficult ones, can echo in our present desires.
Things aren't always neat categories, are they? Pleasure here, pain there.
Not at all. And afterwards, Jamie talks with Eva, feels exhausted naturally, but also like they're finally getting somewhere.
A breakthrough moment then, even though it was tough.
Seems like a significant step in self-understanding.
Which brings us to episode 3, Embracing the Uncomfortable. The title says a lot.
It does. Jamie's anxious before this session, which makes total sense after the last one.
But still showing up, committed to the process.
And Eva's calm presence seems really grounding for Jamie again. Helps create that necessary safety.
And then another memory surfaces.
Yeah, and this one sounds even more intense, maybe more primal. A flash of darkness, suffocating weight, a figure, shadows, hands.
Oh, it's terrifying. A real sense of powerlessness described.
Exactly. It leads to panic, tears. It suggests some of these buried memories might be quite deep, possibly touching on trauma.
So how does Jamie cope with that? Eva's guidance again.
Yes, Eva guides Jamie back to the breath, back to the physical sensations in the body, that grounding technique.
Anchoring in the present to navigate the past.
Right. But here's where it gets even more complex. This terrifying memory also triggers a surge of arousal.
Wow. Again, that twisted dance of pleasure and pain, as it's described.
It really hammers home that complex interplay. The body's reacting in ways the mind is maybe still struggling to process.
It's fascinating. And maybe confusing for Jamie, too, I imagine.
Definitely. And then Eva's touch, even though it's light, seems to amplify everything. Jamie's moans are described as a mix of terror and desire.
Leading to a big physical release. It sounds incredibly visceral.
It is a very powerful scene showing those deep mind-body connections, however confusing they might seem.
And the episode ends with Jamie feeling like true healing was only just beginning.
Yeah, acknowledging it's a process. These are just the first steps on a longer journey.
Okay, moving to episode 4, The Edge of Surrender. Jamie tries something new here, right? Breathwork at home.
Yes, attempting a more advanced technique alone, which is a big step. Seems motivated by that release from the last session.
But also maybe some fear lingering about what else might come up.
For sure. That move to practice independently shows real engagement, though. Wanting to explore on their own terms.
And the experience at home is intensified.
Very much so. Those memories flicker back the dark room, the shadow, and again, those conflicting feelings, disgust and arousal side by side.
Still wrestling with that complexity.
Definitely. And then another different kind of memory surfaces very vividly, a phone sex session with someone named Kai.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just potentially traumatic memories, but also explicitly sexual ones being unlocked.
Exactly. Specific details of the interaction, Jamie's physical reactions, it all comes flooding back. Suggests the breathwork is tapping into a wider range of subconscious material.
Different facets of Jamie's past experiences and desires.
Right. And this solo session is overwhelming. Leaves Jamie feeling paradoxically both empty and powerful.
Empty and powerful. That's quite a combination. Sounds like it drudged up a lot.
It really speaks to the impact of confronting these hidden parts of yourself. The episode ends with this feeling that something major has been cracked open.
But the journey's not over. Far from it.
Definitely not. Which leads into episode 5, Finding Solace in the Stillness. Jamie's feeling pretty raw after that intense solo session.
Understandable. So there's another conversation with Eva.
Yes, and it feels crucial. Eva really emphasizes control, suggests gentler techniques, reminds Jamie that breath work is a tool they control.
That sounds important. Empowering Jamie, maybe reducing some anxiety about things feeling out of control.
I think so. Reframing it as a manageable tool for exploration, not something that just happens to you. Self-exploration needs to feel fundamentally safe.
So Eva leaves a guided meditation back in the office. Does Jamie resist at first?
Yeah, there's initial resistance, even a bit of panic, probably linked to that overwhelming solo experience.
Yes,
Then that phone sex memory with Kai comes back. Again, with all those internal sensations, the shame mixed with the thrill.
It keeps recurring. Seems significant.
Very. But this time, Jamie's response is different. They managed to just allow the emotions, let them flow without fighting them.
Okay, so less resistance this time.
Right. And that leads to this immense cathartic release, a feeling of finally having managed it, like a step towards integration.
That sounds like real progress, processing those complex feelings.
Definitely. But interestingly, the episode notes that Jamie can't quite share this specific experience with Alex and Kai afterwards.
Still feeling vulnerable, maybe? Some things are hard to articulate.
Exactly. It highlights how personal and sometimes isolating this deep self-exploration can be. Confronting hidden parts involves vulnerability.
Okay, so we've walked through Jamie's journey across these episodes. How does this all tie back to our theme? Self-exploration through fantasy and, the Bliss platform itself.
Well, Jamie's experience is a powerful illustration, isn't it? Breathwork acts as the catalyst here, bringing buried stuff, memories, desires to the surface.
Right.
And you can draw a clear parallel to how engaging with immersive fantasy, like the stories on Bliss, can do something similar. It can create a space where unconscious feelings, maybe things you haven't examined, can emerge.
So different methods, maybe, but a similar potential outcome, accessing deeper parts of ourselves.
I think so. Breathwork is one path, engaging storytelling and fantasy on Bliss is another. Both can connect us to hidden or unexplored aspects of who we are.
And inhale, exhale, awaken really makes the case that exploring these things, even the uncomfortable or complex desires and memories, isn't shameful. It's actually vital for self-understanding.
Absolutely vital. It pushes back against that idea that certain fantasies are taboo or wrong and reframes them as potential gateways to insight. Understanding why something resonates with you.
So fantasy isn't just escapism. It could be a tool for, self-confrontation, emotional processing, growth.
Exactly that, moving beyond escapism to mindful engagement.
So for our listeners, Jamie's journey kind of suggests that maybe the stories on Bliss, curated, immersive, could offer a safe space for their own self-discovery through fantasy.
That's the idea. Just like breathwork helped Jamie unlock things, these stories can provide an engaging, enlightening way to connect with your own inner world, mindfully.
Mindfully, that feels key. Actively engaging with the story and your own reactions to it, fostering that introspection. That's what seems to set Bliss apart, maybe.
I agree. It encourages that deeper look, rather than just passive consumption. It's about understanding your emotions, your desires.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dives into inhale, exhale, awaken. It's a really compelling example on the Bliss app of how fantasy, even intense fantasy, touching on difficult emotions or the past, can be this significant journey of self-exploration.
A powerful journey of discovery, yeah.
So if hearing about this has piqued your interest, definitely check out the Bliss app. You can experience the whole Inhale, Exhale, Awaken series there.
And there's a whole range of other mindful, spicy stories too, lots of diverse content offering similar pathways for reflection.
Yeah, it really circles back to how Bliss aims to support sexual wellness by providing these unique ways to explore ourselves, process emotions, and just understand ourselves better.
Deepen that self-awareness.
So maybe a final thought to leave everyone with as they go about their day. What hidden parts of yourself might you uncover if you took the time to mindfully explore your own desires, your fantasies, maybe within a space like Bliss?
Yeah. What's waiting in your inner landscape? It's definitely worth exploring.